Welcome back. In this session, we will deal with social and ethical issues of Sarvodaya. The imperfections of the existing social order necessitated many philosophers to visualize an ideal social order wherein man can realize all his potentialities and lead a happy and peaceful life, where there is equal distribution of wealth and no discrimination on the basis of class, caste, religion, social status, etc. Gandhian vision of ideal society is nothing but an expression of his striving for a just and perfect society. Gandhi, with his many-sided personality, and had a clear vision and definite approach to the problems which faced India at his time. Indian society was completely under the grip of deep-rooted social evils. It had totally degenerated itself socially, politically, economically and educationally. Indian social conditions were corroded with caste conflicts, child marriages, untouchability, sati, parda, denial of education to women, dowry, polygamy, corruption, exploitation, etc. Gandhi wanted to find an immediate solution to all these problems. At this juncture, Gandhi advocated his philosophy of Sarvodaya in an effort to mitigate the sufferings of the humanity. Through Sarvodaya, he wanted to rebuild the nation from the bottom upwards and establish a new social order based on freedom, justice, equality and fraternity. Even now, it can be considered as a solution to the problems of unemployment, unequal distribution of wealth, growing corruption in public life, untouchability, lower status of women, etc. According to Gandhi, if people become genuinely non-violent, morally elevated, mutually affectionate, learn to cooperate voluntarily among themselves and show aversion to antisocial activities, then the society will be elevated to a higher plane of culture. He envisaged realizing this attitude among the people through the ideal of Sarvodaya. His conception of Sarvodaya ideal thus implies universal welfare and integrated development of all. Genesis and meaning of Sarvodaya. The Sanskrit word Sarvodaya comprises two terms, Sarva, which means all, and Udaya, which means rising. So, the philosophy of Sarvodaya stands on much higher plane than utilitarianism. Utilitarianism stands for the greatest happiness of the greatest number, whereas Sarvodaya advocates for the universal welfare and the all-round development of the entire humanity. Sarvodaya aims not at the rise of a few or the many or for the rise of the greatest number, but it stands for the good of one and all. The utilitarian school supports the majority by totally negating the minority, as Sarvodaya advocates the welfare of all, irrespective of class, caste, creed, color, race or religion. It rejects the theories which aim at the joy of a few. Sarvodaya is a more dignified and humane doctrine. Thus, Sarvodaya has a wider connotation as it conceives the assimilation of all. When Gandhi championed the cause of Sarvodaya, he had before him not only the objective of material welfare of all, but also their ethico-spiritual development. Thus, Sarvodaya stood for all-round development of all individuals in the society. Emphasis on moral values in Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya lays emphasis on moral values which are of an abiding nature. One of the most distressing phenomena of modern times is the criterion that success to a certain extent is measured in terms of efficiency. This is repudiation of significance of the human spirit. It is perceived that humanity is undergoing a moral collapse. There is mad rush for power and wealth and people run after superficial glamour. The chief malady of our times is mad quest for power, but Sarvodaya laid stress on self-abnegation. It seeks to replace jealousy and competition by cooperation and altruism. It appeals to our minds and hearts in terms of values and goals which are ingrained. It lays emphasis upon the primacy of goodness and character in place of skill and self-assertion. It seeks to incorporate the moral spiritual values in social, political and economic life. In short, it stands for the supremacy and absoluteness of moral values. Sarvodaya is a theory of ethical justice. It would like to use the external goods for satisfaction of the human spirit. It would regard them as means and not as end in themselves. Sarvodaya philosophy is opposed to an outlook of life that feels insatiable hunger for material goods. Thus, we can see that it is a philosophy which is not negativistic in its approach. It does not negate the importance of material goods, but refuses to regard them as the dominant goal of all human endeavors. So, we can say that Sarvodaya is a philosophy based on moral approach to the problems of mankind. Sources of Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya as an ideal seeks to build a new society on the foundation of the old spiritual and moral values of India. Its philosophy is integral and synthetic in character. In it, Gandhi made a synthesis of the ideas of Upanishads, Buddhism, Christianity, Ruskin, Tolstoy and Thoreau, and tried to incorporate his own ideas at more critical and analytical levels. Sarvodaya is a spiritual idea according to which socio-political, economic and ethico-religious forces work together in harmony and with mutual interest so as to facilitate the attainment of the aspiration of each and every individual in the society. A study on the nature of Gandhian Sarvodaya society reveals his clear-cut views on social, political and economic orders which are closely interrelated and interdependent. Here we will deal with the social order of Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya social order. Gandhi wanted a new social order in which the poor and the downtrodden would get a just and equitable share in the gifts of nature and would have the freedom for enjoying the fruits of labor. His theory of Sarvodaya advocates the emancipation and realization of the good of all human beings. It conceives a society based on universal brotherhood. In Sarvodaya society, there is no scope for exploitation, discrimination, inequalities and violence. Gandhi wanted the establishment of a new social order which would be based on the principles of truth and non-violence. In order to establish it, he suggested that every individual have to imbibe the spirit of love, tolerance, kindness, fearlessness, truth and non-violence. Truth is all pervading in Gandhi's philosophy of life. For him, truth is what his inner voice tells him. He says that truth resides in every human heart and so one has to search for it there. This search may be pursued through love for humanity or rather love for the entire creation of God. For Gandhi, it was impossible to find truth without non-violence or ahimsa. He says, without ahimsa, it is not possible to seek and find truth. Non-violence as a law of life includes individuals, societies and nations. To him, non-violence is both a personal and a social virtue. A society built on the basis of complete ahimsa is the purest anarchy. The main tenets of Gandhian scheme of Sarvodaya social order are Varnashrama Dharma, removal of untouchability, status of women, eradication of corruption, etc. Gandhian concept of Varnashrama Dharma. In the social sphere, Gandhi upholds the Varnashrama Dharma, which is not the caste system as it exists today. The wrong interpretation of Varna has led to chaos and confusion in society. So, Gandhi has made a distinction between Varna and caste. Caste is an excrescence upon Varna. It is a weedy growth fit only to be weeded out. He wanted to give a new meaning and significance to the Varna system in the social sphere. He used Varnashrama as a means to promote human welfare. He held that Varnashrama is inherent in human nature and there are mainly 4 kinds of Varnas, that is Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishya and Shudra, which confer duties but not privileges. He believed that ancient classification of Hindu society into 4 Varnas had been made in the spirit of division of labor, so that each and every member of society can do his share of work for the betterment of the society. The merits of Varna system were later misinterpreted and it gave rise to the present caste system. Gandhi was against the gradation of high and low which were prevalent in caste system. He held that the very question of superiority and inferiority demonstrates the weakness of human nature. The existing structure of innumerable castes imposed unhealthy impediments on the growth of solidarity and was hence detrimental to the well-being of the society. It encouraged complicated ritualism and ceremonialism and was against genuine religious feeling. Hence, Gandhi made a strong plea for the abolition of all evils and injustice related to caste system. Untouchability as a social evil. Gandhi laid emphasis on human equality, and so his desire for removal of untouchability was as strong as his desire for freedom. Through his writings and speeches, he emphasized the problems of untouchability and the need of its removal from its roots. He called it a curse for society. Keeping the ideal of social and political justice and equality, he vehemently condemned it as an impassable barrier in the path of India's progress. He strongly advocated that without social and material improvement of those people who are treated as untouchables, India cannot attain true Swaraj. Gandhi viewed untouchability as a moral problem and believed that it could be mitigated only by change in hearts and minds of caste Hindus. He was not in favor of legislation for the upliftment of the untouchables. He was sure that it would not be removed by the force of law. He felt that the changes must voluntarily come from the heart. He strongly felt that the real cure lays in the change of heart. To remove untouchability, what he prescribes is a change in the social attitude towards lower castes by considering them as equals. His approach was to bring change in the minds of higher castes by expressing the hollowness of untouchability. He believed that it can be removed gradually only when the majority of Hindus realize that it is a crime against God and man. As a part of his constructive program, Gandhi wanted to provide quality education to Harijans or untouchables so that they can stand on equal footing with the upper caste. Hence, we can say that Gandhi's attitude towards untouchability springs from his basic conviction that we are all one in that we share the same Atman or soul. Sarvodaya, in Gandhi's view, included the welfare of the untouchables in Hindu society as well as the restoration of their human rights. Though Gandhi could not abolish the practice of untouchability, he was able to make the practice of untouchability less socially acceptable through his efforts. But in spite of these efforts initiated by him, even after 6 decades of democratic functioning since independence, there are still excluded groups in India who still face marginalization. Though there are some significant changes taking place for greater inclusion of marginalized groups, a vast majority is still suffering from exclusion. Status of women. A survey of Gandhi's social ideas makes it clear that Gandhi aims at the establishment of a society in which equality, peace and happiness will reign supreme. He feels that this would be possible only when men and women realize their status and duties in society. In a non-violent society, women will be treated as an equal partner with man in all spheres of life. Gandhi considers woman not as a weaker sex, but as a female sex. He considers that woman is a personification of strength, endurance and self-sacrifice, but she does not realize what tremendous strength she possesses. So, Gandhi insisted on a fundamental respect for her personality and an equal status for woman with man. When Mahatma Gandhi became active in public life in India, the women of India were facing crucial problems in the society. She was a victim of ignorance, illiteracy, superstition, evil and degrading customs. However, to Gandhi, women were not inferior to men. To him, women were the embodiment of soul force. So, Gandhi believed that women should not regard themselves as dependent, weak or helpless. He did not regard women as inferior to men. In fact, in some aspects, he even believed women to be superior to men. Gandhi felt that in an ideal society, duties and functions are distributed not only among the different varnas, but also among men and women. Both men and women have the same soul and therefore equal. The work assigned to one is not inferior to the work assigned to the other. Man by nature is physically strong and therefore he puts in hard labor to support and protect the family. Women by nature are loving and therefore they are equipped by nature to play the role of a mother and the caretaker of the home. Both these duties are equally important and necessary, and this must be realized by both men and women. Gandhi considered that the relationship between a wife and a husband is a sacred bond guided by a law of discipline which must be the same for and observed by both. The wife cannot be subordinate to her husband in any way. She is not to be the slave of her husband, but his better half, his colleague and friend. She is a co-sharer with him of equal rights and equal duties. She is the creator, the teacher and the guide of human race. This endows women with the role and responsibility to influence and inspire their children to realize higher ideals, noble qualities and healthy dispositions in life. This will lead them to a happy, peaceful and harmonious individual and social life. Gandhi strongly fought against all the existing evil customs against women in India. He looked at the practice of child marriage as a moral and physical evil because he believed that both the boy and the girl should be developed physically and mentally at the time of marriage, and that they should have a voice in the choice of their life partner. Another restriction imposed on women that Gandhi vigorously opposed was that of parda. The main purpose of parda was to preserve the purity of women by keeping them confined. At best, it was an attempt by husbands to protect their wives from marauding male predators. At worst, it was a violation of basic human rights, which resulted in wives being treated as slaves or as a property of their husbands. According to Gandhi, parda not only denied freedom, but also the free gifts of God like light and fresh air to women. He refused to accept the argument that it protected the women morally and physically. He was sure that the abolition of parda would help women in gaining strength and becoming active participants in the struggle for Swaraj. Gandhi believed that the custom of dowry turned young girls into mere chattels to be bought and sold. It greatly lowered the status of women, destroyed their sense of equality with men and defiled the pure character of the institution of marriage. He condemned the system and said that it was nothing but sale of girls. To curb the dowry system, Gandhi wanted the parents to educate their daughters. The most notorious of the customs concerning women during the time of Gandhi was sati. It was believed that satihood is a aim of purity. Gandhi believed that this purity cannot be attained by dying. It can be attained only through constant striving of the spirit from day to day. Gandhi claimed that lack of education and information is a root cause of all evils against women. Education is a necessity for women as it is for men. He believed that low level of literacy among women had deprived them of a socio-political power and also the power of knowledge. Education is the most important instrument for bringing about the desired changes. He stood for a proper education for women as he believed that after receiving education, they would become sensitive and responsive to the glaring inequalities to which they are subjected to. Gandhi wanted women to do work without disturbing home. He wanted them to take up some work which would supplement the earning of the family. Spinning, according to him, was perhaps the best work they would undertake. Apart from supplementing the family income, it could go a long way in bringing about total change in the lives of women. According to Gandhi, spinning will supplement the income of the family and it will be a means of livelihood for the very poor. Gandhi was of opinion that India can defend herself and make progress through non-violence alone, and that women can take lead in this. He believed that salvation of any society and of any nation lies in the hands of the women. But men have tended to dominate women, which resulted in an unfortunate sense of inferiority in women and eventually believed that they are inferior to men. So, he devoted his earnest effort and energy for the removal of many Indian customs that stood as a barrier for the free development of womanhood. He firmly believed that unless women are loved and respected, unless they are healthy and happy, there will be never peace, happiness and prosperity in the country. Gandhi had full faith in sincerity and ability of women, and he called upon them to join the freedom struggle. Women came in great numbers at Gandhi's call and acted upon his advice by participating in the social and political movements. He empowered women to become activists, to think and act beyond their traditional gender roles. Thus, he successfully enabled Indian women to travel the road from parda to activism. Eradication of corruption as a Gandhian norm. Whenever a person neglects his duty for monetary gains, to hold some office, to seize someone's property or any other gain, the act can be called as corruption. The corruption is done mostly by the person having some power, as he can have undue advantages through them. Politics of modern civilization is nothing more than a game of deception, exploitation, coercion and suppression, which tend to foment quarrels, divisions and fights. It is full of deceits, dishonesty and all types of corrupt practices. Today, politics has become as unprincipled and opportunistic as at no time in the history of our country. It is a matter of great pity that political climate in our country has been devoid of moral values. As far as morality is concerned, no political party is clean. Difference is only one of degree. In other words, it is a symbol of power politics and is little concerned with duty and service of humankind, which should be the real goal and ideal of real politics. Gandhiji's message of love, search for truth and passion for non-violence serve as a beacon light which shows humanity the right direction for future courses of action. He always stressed the importance of making use of the achievements of science and technology only for human betterment. For this, he found that it was necessary to combine politics with religious or moral values. He insisted that ethics or religion should be the guide and foundation of politics. The principles of truth and non-violence, which forms the pivot of Gandhi's political activity, are basically religious principles. He brought down these principles from the heights of spiritualization to the day-to-day life of common man. By this, he wanted to show that there is nothing bad about politics if it is guided by moral and religious principles. Hence, he stated, "For me, there is no politics devoid of religion. Politics bereft of religion is a death trap because it kills the soul." He firmly held that success in politics should be achieved only by truthful means. Thus, Gandhi revolutionized politics by introducing the maxims of ethics and religion. According to him, politics and religion are often seen degenerated because we are attempting to separate them. He not only lived and died with religious politics, but also institutionalized politics with the essence of morality. This religious politics of Mahatma Gandhi is 100% relevant in the modern scenario where the world is facing the different manifestations of violence. Thus, Gandhi tries to introduce morality in politics by the presupposition that even political activity is an aspect of the spiritual pattern that guides the world. From the above account, it is clear that if leaders of today are influenced by similar virtues of religion, it will go a long way in reducing the present crisis of politics of corruption in India. Political life as we find today stands blind to all moral values. Our age needs politicians who are not merely motivated by considerations of power and economic gains, but by human considerations. The Gandhian technique of giving inner space to morality in political system will help us to withstand the most difficult circumstances. The implication of religious politics of Gandhi can be seen in his different techniques of solving political problems and framing the blueprint of Sarvodaya order of society. It is expected that this will bring about a peaceful revolution in politics in near future, if not immediately. Sarvodaya, socialism and communism. Gandhi called himself a socialist and even a communist, but for him socialism and communism were transcendental forms of egalitarian social philosophy that find their fulfillment and culmination in Sarvodaya. The common point between Gandhi and Marx is the extreme concern of both for the suppressed and the oppressed. But there are some differences between the two. Sarvodaya pleads for villagization and accepts village ownership, but socialism believes in nationalization. Secondly, socialism adheres to the concept of violent revolution in some cases, but Sarvodaya has no place for violence in its philosophy. The difference between Sarvodaya and communism are far more basic and fundamental. Communism advocates a violent technique for a change over in favor of an egalitarian society. Sarvodaya, to the contrary, believes in persuasion and change of heart. Gandhiji believed that Sarvodaya could be realized only by the application of a moral and ethical method. We can say that Sarvodaya is far more nobler, subtler, broader and deeper concept than socialism or communism. As a universal ideal, it aims at not only fulfilling the minimum material needs, but also developing the ethico-spiritual aspects of all people. It is a vision that looks forward to the creation of a welfare state and society. In this unit, we have discussed the social and ethical issues of the Sarvodaya philosophy of Gandhi. Sarvodaya philosophy lays emphasis on moral values. It seeks to incorporate the moral and spiritual values in the social, political and economic life. In the Sarvodaya social order, the main tenets of Gandhian scheme are Varnashrama Dharma, removal of untouchability, improving the status of women in society and spiritualization of politics in order to avoid corruption. If these principles are adopted, it will help us to establish a society based on freedom, justice, equality and fraternity. Before we move on to the next session, please try to answer the following questions. Examine Gandhi's views on Varnashrama Dharma. Write a short note on elimination of untouchability as a Gandhian norm. Elucidate Gandhi's views on the role of women in society. Why did Gandhi insist on spiritualization of politics? Explain the Gandhian concept of Sarvodaya and bring out its difference from socialism and communism. Books for your reference are Religion and Gandhian Philosophy by Manisha Barua, Agamsha Publication, Delhi. Contemporary Indian Philosophy, Vasant Kumar Lal, Motilal Banarsidass, Delhi. Gandhian Philosophy, its relevance today, Gumbadi Veeraraju, Decent Books, New Delhi. Hope you have enjoyed this session. See you next time. Until then, goodbye.